Hi everyone, I'm Haruka. I'm one of the project coordinators for OurSpace, and I also have Patty and Yustina joining us today for a session on tips for going back to school. I also have Louise here. She's doing more of the background work today. She's my other project coordinator for OurSpace, so she'll be doing lots of technology support, and so if you have any issues around technology, feel free to share. Before we get started, I'm going to kind of quickly go over the Q&A and just different pods that are on your screen right now. So we'll have the slides right next to our videos on the right side, no, this side, right side of us. And then underneath is the Q&A pod where you can share any questions or comments that you have. I also just want to be mindful that Patty and Yustina may not be able to answer some questions that are specific around what your school day is going to look like, but they are able to answer questions around ways to help you feel less nervous, less worried, and more prepared for going back to school. We'll also make sure to share resources, so the official school board websites within the Hamilton community, as well as social media accounts so that you can be updated on what your school day might look like. We'll share questions and comments that come in on the box right next to, on the right side, but underneath the slides. If you find that you need help right now, anytime during the session, there are some resources and supports that you can go to right underneath Patty there. So that's just a little bit about the layout of the screen. Feel free to play around, and I think I'll pass the mic on over to Patty. Go ahead.
Thank you, Haruka. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Something Feels Different. Tips for you guys who are heading back to school. I'm going to just make sure I've got my little clicker on here so I can move through the slides. All right, guys, we know that there are probably some things that are going on for you that do feel familiar, just like every other school year. August comes, you start to wonder what the school year is going to be like. And some of those questions, you're used to kind of dealing with the unknown. And it's not until the first day that you get to school until you know some of these things. However, over the last several months, we've been in a very different situation. And going back to school has brought up so many different kinds of questions for all of you, I'm sure. It's really, really important to understand that this is happening to everyone, not just youth, not just young children, not just our parents and our middle-aged people, but also our older generation. We're all feeling overwhelmed and scared. And when we think about all of these questions just piling up about what this school year is really going to look like, keeping in mind that we've probably heard so many people talking about their own worries and their own fears, and that is just making it so big. So what we're trying to get a good understanding of with our audience today is just to get some feedback from you guys. Have you had any of these thoughts? Has the questions quadrupled over the last month? So if you want to pull in, you can choose. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but this is where Haruka and Louise do the magic, and they kind of help me out here. So I'm hearing that I'm reading that 66.6% right now are having a few here and there. So a little bit more than normal amount of questions that are flooding their brains. And that totally makes sense to me. 33.3% are saying that, yes, quite often they're experiencing a compound of questions and fears and worries. And when this happens to us, like, our whole nervous system is ramped up. So it's no wonder that we are feeling quite anxious about the unknown. So all of this, the feedback here on the poll makes perfect sense. that we might be feeling scared, we might be feeling so many different kinds of emotions. Because of what we're hearing, because of the news, because of the COVID itself, we don't have a lot of the answers. And so all of you are completely right to be feeling like your feelings are all over the map, and that you don't have a real true sense of what's going to happen next. And that makes all of us quite anxious. So I just want you guys to know that in preparing for this video, there was a lot of discussion about how difficult this is going to be for our youth, and that, you know, the adults can worry as much as they want, but it's actually you guys that are stepping into the schools, and that's got to be pretty scary. Because of all of the things that we don't know, and because of the things that we do know about this virus. And I'm sure that you are not alone in having some of these worries. So it's important for you to know that we've been thinking about that, and we know this. And there's a whole bunch of caring adults out there in this community that really do understand how difficult this is going to be. But we also know that you guys are super, super resilient and super, super, way stronger than you think you are. So we're going to try and remind you of a few of those things. And my good partner, Justina, is going to also walk us through some step-by-step strategies. That does give us a little bit of control over things we have control over. Understanding that if we can continue to take care of the smaller things that we do have control over, it might ease some of the feelings we're experiencing about the bigger things.
Yeah, and I really love how you really acknowledge all of the real emotions that people are probably feeling. And that's so true, and they're so real. And so this next piece is a bit more of the practical. That's true and that's real, and how can we practically go about that? So this is one of the practical pieces. This is called the circle of control. So what do we do with all of these big stressors and worries that might be taking over our mind? Well, this is one tool. And it helps us to start to sort some of those thoughts and the worries and figure out which of them do I actually have control of them and what don't I have control of. Because we can only change what's within our control. And that's really where we want our focus to be. To focus in on what we have control of. And then we can start to unhook from or let go some of these worries that we can't control and some of the stresses that we can't actually control. And we're going to walk through a couple of examples. So, will I get COVID-19? Great question. It's a very real worry that's likely crossed all of our minds. And to some degree, this worry is actually helpful. It's keeping us safe. It's keeping us alert to some of the dangers of COVID-19 and what we can do to prevent it. However, when it becomes so big and we become so hooked on it, and our mind is full and kind of exploding with this worry, now it's probably not helpful and functional anymore. It's probably getting in the way of things that we want or need to do. So we can use the circle of control for that. So first off, predicting the future, right? Will I get COVID-19? We don't know. We can't control or predict the future. So that's an example of something that goes on the outside of this circle of control, something we can't control. If others physically distance, so that would affect if I get COVID, but it's something that I can't control. I can't control others. So that goes on the outside as well. How long will this pandemic last? Other people follow precautions, wear their mask, wash their hands. These are all things that might impact if I get COVID, but they're outside of my control. So it's not helpful for me to put my attention and focus there because I can't control those things. So we have to start to flip our thinking to, okay, what can I control that will affect if I maybe or maybe not get COVID? So I move to the inside of the circle. So how I follow the rules, right? My own physical distancing. I can physically distance myself from the others who I can't control. I can wear a mask. I can wash my hands. That's what I can do. My attitude, and my attitude sounds a bit sassier than I intended it to be, but just the idea of how I think about and approach the situation, my thoughts, that's within my control. Okay. Another example.
Confident.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded confident, Justina, not snarky or anything.
Not
it was
sassy?
No, not sassy at all. You owned it. And that's what we want people to know, is that this is your personal space. This is your social distancing bubble. And it's okay to enforce that, right?
Yeah, you're so right. Being confident in that I'm following these to protect myself and to protect others. And that's what I can do about it. That's what's in my control. Yeah. So what if I don't succeed with this new way of learning? That's another big thought. It's a big worry. So we can break it down into, okay, what can I control about this and what can't I control about it? Again, on the outside, predicting the future. We can't predict the future. It's not within our control. Or exactly what the school year will look like. Exactly what my cohort in school will look like. Those exact thoughts are things that we can't control, especially with, there's plans for COVID-19, but COVID can change daily, and so the plans can change often too. So kind of having these exact plans are things that we can't have control of. Okay, but what can I control? So preparing to go back to school, I can read reliable resources online that detail the current plans. I can start to shift my routine to become adapted back into this school routines. I can ask for help with the new learning platform. I can maintain social connections. So I can't control maybe who's in my cohort, but I can maintain different relationships outside of that cohort and new ones or same ones inside it as well. And taking care of myself, being kind to myself. This whole new way of learning, it's a lot. It might be quite a bit to take on. So an interesting question is, am I willing to be gentle with myself as I adapt to this new way of learning? So everything on the inside here is what I can control when big worries like this come up. So that's the circle of control. And over the next couple weeks, or if some of these big worries or thoughts come up when you're back to school, you can try using the circle of control to break it down and sort those out into what do I have control of and what is not within my control. Okay.
Very good. I'm sure even thinking about some of the basics, right, guys? Enough sleep, enough your diet, your exercise. I'm sure you're tired of hearing us adults rattle on about it. But now the connection to that mental health, we know it's so important to take care of those little details, and those are things you do have control over, right? Another thing that's very, very helpful is practicing mindfulness. So we wanted to share a video with you today, and I think somebody's going to help me with that.
When did you last take the time to do nothing? When did you last take the time to do nothing? And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. These days, we rarely give our minds a chance to rest. And as a result, we often feel stressed, overwhelmed by emotions, lost in thought almost half of our waking hours. And everybody just assumes.
Very cute. Was there anything you wanted to add to that one, or are we ready to move on to this next one?
Yeah, and I guess that was just an example for Headspace, that it could be, there's so many videos on YouTube that guide through different meditations and different mindfulness, and that there's a lot of evidence that also supports that mindfulness decreases stress and anxiety in youth, and it increases an overall sense of well-being. So it has lots of benefits for this, the group that might be joining us today.
Absolutely. I don't know what else, or I don't know what I would do without mindfulness practice every day. I've certainly learned to look up in the sky, listen to the birds, and just be in the moment, and that has reduced my own anxiety. So
no matter what's going
I know
on
it
in your
works.
life right now,
I know it works. We
no
just
matter
have
how
to
many
teach
thoughts
this
are
to
racing
younger
around your mind, no matter how
generations
voice
for
you
sure. Hope you guys
just
are
take a
listening.
moment
Watch
to sit
those
down
birds and smell those
and take a
flowers,
big,
okay?
deep breath.
Yeah,
Breathing
it's
in
really
through the
about
nose
being in that present moment. I
and
like
out through
how
the
you
mouth.
said that,
As you
focusing
breathe in, a
on the
sense of
here and
taking
the
in
now.
fresh
And
air,
I think the
the
thing with the
lungs
anxiety and the
expanding.
worry is it can take us
As
into
you
the
breathe out,
future
a
thinking.
sense of
What
letting
if,
go
what if? And so
of any
the nice thing about
stress
mindfulness is it's
in
bringing
the
you
body,
back, grounding you
in
back
the
in this
mind,
here and now
just
moment, which is
feeling
so helpful.
the muscles soften.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does get
You can
easier
close
with
your eyes
practice.
if you'd
It's a
like to. One
skill
more.
that you can build
Breathing
on
deeply
and get
in
really
through the
good at it.
nose
So here's another video we have to
and out
share
through the mouth.
about some
And just take a
other
moment
very, very
to pause.
helpful techniques
Allow the thoughts
that
to
we
come
should
and go.
all be doing daily.
And then
We
just
can try this
gently
one together as a
open the
group.
eyes again.
Awesome.
That was helpful for presentation nerves.
Yeah, it's amazing how just that little tiny piece of time can bring about a change in your whole nervous system and throughout your body. Yeah, that felt good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are with another question for everybody. We want to dive into talking about the importance of routines and structure and the role that that plays in our lives. And because we haven't been at school for a very, very long time, or we've been doing school from home, our routines are not consistent at all with each other, and maybe they're not even consistent for you on a weekly basis. or a daily basis. So give us some answers here. So the poll's up, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Oh, we're getting mornings are my thing. A third. I'm really bad at math. A third, yeah. Oh, it just cleared. I think there was a variety of different answers to this, which just kind of confirms that everybody's kind of all over the place in terms of their routine. So going back to school, we know requires us to get back into some kind of consistent schedule, because that gives us the calm brain that's going to help us be the best students we can be. And let's face it, with all of these worries, we really need to practice our calmness. So Justina's going to walk us through how to help us get back on track with some of these important details.
Yeah. And kind of like you said, that we're all kind of different. And I think it's helpful to acknowledge where am I at right now with my routine, and what I might need to do or shift to get to where I want to be. And I think going from the summer quarantine kind of mode to school mode might feel like a relief for some people if it's been really tough being at home for this long. For others, it might feel quite stressful. Maybe they've really enjoyed their time at home. So also acknowledge, like, where am I at? How do I feel about having to transition back to school again? And wherever you're at, that's okay and that's valid. Just acknowledge it for yourself. See where you're at. And then just quickly again to the evidence, that there is a lot of evidence to show that routines are an indicator of well-being for youth and their families. They provide stability and a sense of control, like we've been talking about during times of stress, like maybe right now, COVID, 5 months off of school. So routines are really helpful. And we'll go over some steps on how to develop a morning and evening routine that you can implement over the next couple of weeks to prepare yourselves to get back to school mode. Slowly shifting out of that quarantine summer mode. And you might actually adjust your routine a bit once you actually start school. We'll just work on the prep stage. And I want to highlight that this on the screen, the one that we'll be going through, is only an example, just a sample for one person. It'll be very different for you, for everybody, depending on, again, where you're currently at and what you want your routine to look like. So kind of the first step is the timing. Start to set your sleep and your wake times closer to your school year timing. This is likely something familiar. You probably did it last year, or maybe you didn't, and then you can try it this year. But it's giving your body some time to adjust its sleep and wake cycle. And you might find it helpful to ease into this by a chunk of time each morning and each night. So for example, if you're currently going to bed at 3 a.m., you can start, even tonight, working your way back each hour, leading yourself up to maybe 10 p.m. by the time school comes. Same thing with the morning. Maybe you aim to wake up at 8 a.m. for the weeks leading up to school. Maybe the weekend before you push it back to 7:30, slowly getting yourself back to those school timings. Then you want to think about a morning routine. And if you're starting out as someone who loves morning routines, yours might have more structure than the example on the screen. If you're a what's a routine again kind of person, and you haven't had much structure to your morning at all, this could be an example of something that starts to warm you up to that structure again in your morning. So things you want to maybe ask yourself or think about is, what was my routine like last year? What do I want to keep from that morning routine? What do I want to change? Is there anything I've been doing during quarantine or this kind of summer mode that I want to keep? Maybe you've been able to make time for something that you've always felt rushed and you couldn't do it before. So keep that and schedule that into your morning routine. when you're going back into your school routine. Continue to make time for that if it feels good for your mind and your body. Then you want to think about an evening routine. So this is really about something relaxing, calming, helping wind down your mind and your body before going to bed. The same idea, you can reflect on, what did I do last year in my evening routine? What did I like? What didn't I like? And what do I want to keep from COVID? So this example has a lot more structure, this evening routine, than the morning one. And there's no specific criteria that you have to use to fill your evening. It's just really about what winds me down and then intentionally scheduling that into your evening so that you have that before you go to bed. And creating a soothing environment is also something that you can do in your evening routine. So things like turning off your phone or even just flipping over your phone so you don't have the light, listening to calming music, could be closing the blinds so you have a dark kind of calm space. You could try one of those minute mindfulness on YouTube. Kind of want to set up the feel of your space to match how you want to feel in your body, which in this case would be something calming. And as I was typing this sample out on my phone, I clicked on that 8:30 to 10 underlined time, and then it populated with this image beside to actually create an event or create a reminder. And I thought that was so perfect that you could put it into your phone and have that external reminder so you don't have to rely on remembering this new thing. You can just have it in your phone, it'll buzz and it'll remind you, and then you can kind of go through it there. And as I was preparing for this, Louise actually showed me that Google can do something too. That was on an iPhone, but you can create goals and you can create reminders through the Google Calendar. So that's another option as well. Very practical. Okay.
Interesting discussion here, I think. I'm sure all of you tuning in have probably been witnessing a variety of different people's taking a stance either way on this issue. We know that currently it's the law. We need to be wearing our masks in public, and that is being enforced all over the place. So we are getting used to this this new thing. But going back to school is a whole different situation, because it can be a long day of wearing a mask, and it can be quite difficult to practice social distancing or physical distancing when you've got lots of kids at school. So I know that this is a big topic all over the place.
And I think too, coming from the summer mode, being outside a lot of the time with friends where maybe you weren't wearing masks and you were more distant, now moving inside of school and so much closer, so the masks and the physical distancing are so much more important. It's a pretty big shift for some people and not a habit yet. And I think that's where practicing it is so helpful, to get yourself familiar with it and used to it. And like hand washing, for example, in the beginning when we were told to do the 20 seconds, that's an alarmingly long amount of time. Realize it felt like for me to wash my hands. And maybe I shouldn't say that. I wasn't doing a good job before. But, you know, it felt like a long time. So practice it and get familiar with it.
It took us a while. Yes, it took us all a while to figure out how to live with these new rules in our life. So now as we take this step forward and we move into the schools, it's going to be even more important for all of us to do our part. And remember that we all have personal responsibility for our own space and our own germs and our hand washing and our face covering. And that is really, really super important because we don't want to put people at risk. We want to enjoy the step of being able to go back to school and learn and socialize. That's really important for us. So these rules are super, super important. I think one of the questions that I've heard kids talking about is, who's going to be in my cohort? And if somebody was in my social bubble over summer, does that mean that I have to socially distance or physical distance from them when I'm at school? So I think the quick and fast answer to that is, yeah, I think we all have to really work hard to follow those rules and to model those rules for everybody. And if we make one exception, I can see maybe where we might run into some problems. So it's best to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of the theme throughout this presentation is acknowledging that that's not easy, and that's probably not going to be what you're hoping for, right? These are your friends. Totally get that. It makes sense if you're feeling annoyed by that or frustrated by that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The struggle is definitely real. We're all feeling it. And we are all in this together. We're here for each other. And I really truly believe in our young people and their ability to use their resilience, to use their strengths and bounce back and do the things that they need to do. And in a lot of ways, they end up being the ones who adjust much better than some of us older people. So I love youth for that reason. And I think it's really important for you guys to understand just how strong you really are. Resilience means knowing how to cope in spite of setbacks or barriers. If anyone can do it, our youth can do it. So we want you to be practicing self-compassion. Do the little things that maybe sometimes you don't think matter, but in the bigger picture, they matter more than ever. Stay connected to your people. Share your feelings. Let your feelings out. Be determined to bounce back. Start every day anew. And if there are changes that we're constantly going through, just know that you're not alone. Everybody is trying to cope with the fast change pace. Remember how resilient you are. Remember how strong you are. And we are behind you 1,000,000,000%. And please, if you guys have any questions, feel free to give us some questions, comments, or some feedback. So good luck to everybody. Our hearts are with you, and I know I have a job where I'm also going back to school, so I'm going to be practicing all of these things. Thank you so much, Justina, for giving us those details and helping us remember that we do have control. We do have some control, for sure.
Upcoming weeks to prepare yourself
Right.
for school.
There are things in our control,
If you
yeah.
have any questions,
Yeah,
feel free to
thank
reach
you,
out.
everybody. And yeah, as Patty said, if anyone has
email
any
address
questions,
I will share in the questions, comments, and
happy to
discussion
answer them.
box that you can share questions to, and we'll forward them to Patty and Justina. There is an upcoming family session about going back to school. So if you have family members that might find the session helpful, feel free to share it with them. We will also post the resource page for this session on our website, and so if you missed the beginning of it, you want to watch it again to kind of remind yourself the different skills, it will be uploaded very soon, and feel free to share that with your friends and family as well. Thank you again for everyone for joining, and we hope it's a great school year for everyone. Thank you.